just kind of really dedicate myself to the playbook and learning, every detail I possibly can, to give ourselves the best shot, to operate out here. I just really want to have a smooth practice with these guys, and, hopefully everyone looks good.
Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews and welcome to Steelers Live. Rookie minicamp is in the book for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was first-round draft pick quarterback Kenny Pickett. We're going to talk about that and looking ahead to OTAs and minicamp as the Steelers offseason continues. Let's welcome in our panelists today, Mike Prisuta from the DVE Morning Show and also Steelers.com. Craig Wolfley, you know him, former Steeler offensive line great. A lot of questions for him as well. And Hall of Famer, former Steelers linebacker Arthur Moats. I'm sorry, Moats, if you're a Hall of Famer, we got to acknowledge it every show, so not to embarrass you.
It's all good. I greatly appreciate it every time. Makes me feel really, really important.
All right, Triv, you were out there for the 2 days of rookie minicamp practices that were open to the media. What stood out to you?
Actually, the walkthroughs were open to the media, so I can't really give you any football nuts and bolts. This guy did this well or that guy did that well, but a bunch of things stood out. And let's start with the guy we heard from at the top there, Kenny Pickett. Right after he was drafted, Steelers president Art Rooney II did an interview on ESPN Pittsburgh and SNR during the second night of the draft, and he said that the intangibles sort of put Pickett over the top in their evaluation, and he talked about how his attitude is one you want in terms of being humble. And that kind of stuck with me, and I wondered about it because, like everybody else in Pittsburgh, I've watched a lot of Kenny Pickett, but I don't cover Pitt. I never went to his press conferences. I haven't really hung around him at all. And that first day, guys, I was around him for between 5 and 10 minutes listening to him answer questions, and he's talking about his biggest concern is, I need to get to know my teammates' names so I can help them out. I want to call out the guys out here, and I don't know who they are. I gotta memorize some names over lunch. And anytime playing time came up for his potential role, he said, hey, I got to get in the playbook. If I don't know what I'm doing, there's not going to be a competition. I'm not going to give myself a chance. His humility and his genuineness really, and again, pretty small sample size, but I think Art Rooney got it right. I think this kid is a genuinely humble, sincere person, and he impressed me that way. Couple other guys that stood out, and you see them live. You saw what you saw on tape. I'm talking about George Pickens, the wide receiver, and DeMarvin Leal, the defensive lineman. Pickens is a monster at that position, and Leal, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody look thick and lean at the same time, but he pulls it off somehow. I mean, this kid is 290 pounds, approaching 300 pounds. You have no idea he weighs that much looking at him. He's so well put together. And last but not least, my guy Connor Hayward. We didn't see them block because they didn't have the pads on, but this kid's, in my interpretation of his tape, at least, I thought he was an outstanding blocker, and I did learn that the staff felt the same way, and they're counting on him for that. So an interesting couple of days, to say the least. I can't wait till we actually see some football, even if it's football in shorts, but as walkthroughs go, guys, very enlightening.
And football in shorts, as you and Labs like to call it, begins next week here at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. So, Wolf, I know things are a little different these days compared back to when you played, but what is the best piece of advice you can give these rookies as they're taking that final step before they get to training camp and we know things will get hot and heavy?
It's funny because you're talking about different eras, and that's a truism. Like, I can't even believe. It was funny. When I saw that question was going to be, I thought, what was it like? And I go back to 1984, circa 1984, when my brother Ron Wolfley, who was just about to launch a 10-year NFL career, 4 Pro Bowls and everything, going to Phoenix, to the Cardinals, then the St. Louis Cardinals, by the way. So anyhow, he calls me up on the eve of training camp and he says, all right, your best advice, what do I do? I said, it's easy. 3 things. Number 1, keep your mouth shut. You're a rookie. Nobody cares what you got to say. All right. You're the lowest life form in camp. All right. So do your job. Just keep your mouth shut. Number 2, respect everybody. All right. From the owner to the ball boys, from your position coach to the guy that takes out the trash. You show everybody respect. Everybody's got a job to do there. You show respect to everybody. I said, and then 3 is, let's see how hungry you really are. Number 3 is, you know what? Pick out the toughest guy in camp and fight him. And that'll get you noticed. And so I thought about that in terms of today, and I'm thinking, you might want to amend that now and say, hey, like Kenny Pickett said, be a good teammate and compete. There you go.
No, Wolf, don't you back off of it now, man. I love that advice. Number one, the fact that you set the tone by letting the rookies know you haven't done anything. You do not matter. You have to go through and earn your stripes. I'm 100% behind that. But something that I would add, just from my experiences as well, would be to not make the same mistake more than once. We know at the NFL level, the patience that coaches have is not as long and as lengthy as it is at the collegiate level. At this level, it's a business. So if you continue to make the same mistakes over and over, coach will tell you, hey, man, if you can't figure this out, I'm going to find somebody that can. And that goes for draft picks as well as undrafted free agents. So I think all those things that you dropped, absolutely 100% behind. But then I'll also add that part at the end, man. Just do not make the same mistakes on multiple occasions.
You know, it does sound like great advice, but we got to back up just a bit. Missi, I know you've been in the same situation I've been in over the years where Ron Wolfley and Craig Wolfley are in close proximity and they're both talking at the same time. They are both loquacious. They both are loquacious to the degree that they invent words and have developed their own language over the years. Wolf, at what point did you start talking? Because, brother, once you got started, it's been flowing pretty good ever since.
It was all those years hanging out with my brother in Chaluch, you know? I mean, at some point in time, it just happened. But fortunately, it was at a time when it was acceptable. Let's put it that way, okay?
Arthur, I do want one follow-up question for you in terms of Kenny Pickett. A first-round draft pick is going to have pressure no matter what. The quarterback position, especially with the Pittsburgh Steelers. How do you think he is going to handle it, and what is the best way for him to maybe block out that outside noise?
Yeah, I think that Kenny's going to handle it extremely well. You heard what Prisuta was saying in the sense that the intangibles about Kenny are what really stood out the most about him. His maturity, his just ability to command the huddle, his presence in terms of interviews. I think that all of those things are going to carry over through this OTA process because, yes, he's in a competition. Yes, there's going to be pressure on him being that he played at Pitt and was highly successful, that he was the first-round draft pick of the Steelers, and he's replacing a future Hall of Famer in Ben Roethlisberger. But I think with Kenny, as long as he stays true to who he truly is, he's going to be fine. He's good enough. He's gifted enough. So that part takes care of itself. I just think for him, just don't go in there and try to be somebody that you're not. Be who you are. The same person that was having fun at Pitt, the same person that was smiling when you led those guys in terms of the ACC, take that same approach with these guys at the NFL level, and they will respect you immensely for it.
Prisuta, sticking with the quarterback position, we know there's going to be a competition. Mike Tomlin has made that very clear. Can that begin before training camp, and what do you expect to see in OTAs and minicamp specifically with that position?
I think it absolutely can begin before training camp. I think you're always being evaluated. You know, they film everything out there. And there are a bunch of people out there walking around, looking around. If you remember Kevin Colbert talking after they drafted Kenny Pickett and about how the number of times they saw him live at Pitt, not just playing the game, but interacting with his teammates and coaches on the sidelines and how he responded to situations and things of that nature. Yeah, I think the gun has gone off. The competition has started. The clock is ticking. They got to figure it out at some point so that they know who the guy is going into the opener and that guy is as prepared as he can possibly be. But I think everything and anything's on the table in terms of what they're looking at, starting now.
Well, if I don't want to
100%.
Go ahead, Moats.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on that. I mean, like you said, everything is a competition and an evaluation. If you're eating a salad instead of the chicken wings, we're going to dock you. If you go in and you see a donut and you pass over on the donut, Wolf's going to dock you. So we know that's how it goes in terms of competition, baby. It doesn't matter if shirts or in pads, everything's evaluated.
This sounds like an SNR competition we should have out on the back patio during OTAs and minicamp. Just saying, guys. I'm sure you'll be here for that.
No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Let me just add this because competition begins in the mind. You come in with the mindset that I'm here to compete. I'm not here to just carry a clipboard, or I'm not here to just automatically assume that I'm number 3 or number 4 in whatever position battle. It begins in the mind. You've got to believe that you are skilled and prepared and ready to go. And remember, it always starts with the preparation. Everybody wants to win. It's people that have the will to prepare to win. Everybody wants to compete, but it's about having the will to prepare to compete.
Well, if I thought you were going to say it starts up front, which is where I was going next with the offensive line. What do you need to see, or what do you want to see in terms of this next phase of the offseason?
You know what I would love to see? I'd love to see those guys out there pushing cars all over the yard. All right, you got the backyard there. You got, you got the 3 football fields, 4 of them, whatever. Just be pushing cars all over the place. Move some people. That's what it's about this year. You start off early in the off season. You get yourself a big old squat rack with big old manhole covers, put it on the bar, go up and down place. You get your squat up to 600, 700, 800 pounds you're carrying, right? Then you go outside and you push cars because you're going to apply that strength, that static strength in a grinding way that starts to show you the positions, which car pushing is great because it keeps you in that position where you got to stay low and all the muscles come together, and then you start to work through your grind into your ballistics. And the ballistics always come about as you are going through the whatever the off-season mini camp or when you go into training camp. But I want to see people move as you move cars. So I'd make that a parking lot that guys could only push cars in.
I don't know if I want to offer up my car or not, but maybe.
Yeah, Missy, remind me to park across the river, then I'll walk across the hot metal bridge for OTAs.
That's that old school approach right there. I love it because for me, I can relate to it. But it's funny when I hear it though. Pushing the cars. I'm sure these young guys are looking like, push the car. What? Why would I do such a thing?
You're right, Arthur. You're so right.
Moats, what do you think is the biggest question mark heading into this phase for the Steelers on either side of the ball?
Man, I mean, it's a good amount, in a good way, though. If we're talking offensively, I think up front with the offensive line, the big question mark is just seeing how those guys gel together. Wolf can attest to this. Even though they are individuals, they are a unit and they have to play well together. They have to trust each other. And you're not going to get that trust without knowing your brother, knowing the guy that you're next to, how they like to play, how they like to attack different things. And this is the time where they're going to get a chance to understand each other and figure that out. So I think offensive line is definitely somewhere where you're looking into to see, how they develop. Another storyline that I would look into is on the defensive side of the ball. Prisuta brought up DeMarvin Leal. I'm extremely excited about him, but I'm also cautiously optimistic about his role early in the season, and that's solely predicated on what Stephon Tuitt is going to look like. So for me, I think he's another guy in terms of DeMarvin that I'm interested to see how he develops and what that looks like for the early portion of the season.
Trev, Wolf, anything else you guys think is a question mark heading into this phase?
Well, just to kind of tag along with Arthur saying, sorry if I cut you off, Michael, didn't mean to. The one thing on offense, what's the offense going to look like? This is a different era. We've just hung up with 18 years of Hall of Fame quarterbacking, and I know the quarterback's going to be a big story, but now we're talking about a completely possibly revamped offense where maybe we got more play action, maybe we've got misdirection, maybe we've got an ability to move the launch points around for the quarterback, and that's going to be a whole totally different makeup for the Steelers. Not to mention the fact you got a twosome of tight ends that I think can really present some specific problems defensively. So can you start to build on that and this offense look different? And defensively speaking, you got to start to figure out what the riddle of run defense is going to look like. The biggest problem last year in my mind, most humbly, I just throw this out here, is a run defense. What in the world can you do to bolster that thing? Because the rebuilding project starts right now, and you've got to get those elements in place and get them going.
Wolf, you took the words right out of my mouth like it was the last chicken wing on the plate at the Anchor Bar. I mean, obviously quarterback is a huge question, right? Obviously, everybody is hopeful of seeing Stephon Tuitt at some point, whether it's in OTAs or mandatory veteran minicamp, which will conclude that. But what is this offense going to look like? We've been so fixated on the people that are going to be doing it. What's the offensive line configuration, and how will Pickens contribute, and who's going to play quarterback? I think it's going to look a lot different. I think Matt Canada, he might have been the coordinator last year, but I don't think we saw, Matt Canada's stuff. And I think we're going to see it this year. And Wolf, all that stuff you mentioned, I think it's going to be exciting to watch all that unfold, and particularly exciting in September to see whether it works or not.
All right, I'll be the official counter of the chicken wings whenever we have that competition here during OTAs or minicamp. Guys, let me know your schedules and when you'll be here. Starts on Tuesday. We'll have complete coverage for everybody. Guys, thanks for your time as always. We appreciate it. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Steelers Live. We'll see everybody next time. Again, OTAs begin next week on Tuesday, so make sure you stay tuned in for all of our coverage from the UPMC Bruni Sports Complex. Have a good night.